Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 343 and 344. His name is Moria, the great shadow-seizing pirate's trap, and Feast of the Zombie Song, the night raid's bell is the sound of darkness. I love these titles so much, y'all. I just do. I love them so much. In these episodes, well, Zombie Night's definitely going on my Halloween playlist, number one. Number two, the concept of zombies that go and carry around a disco ball, thumbs up forever. And number three, I really want to know why the hell Sanji is always the one who has to get got and put on his own somewhere. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you so much to the One Piece crew for commissioning this episode. What's up, all y'all guys? Thank you. Thank you. Brian is in the chat saying that he found me through the Wire series. Oh, dope. That is a show that so many people don't even know we covered. Those of you who are interested, me and Rashawn. Me in my very, fledgling understandings of race and its role in the United States. I got it on the broad level, but much of the nuance was lost on me. And I really think about going back and rewatching it, knowing what I know now. And I wonder if it would be worse. But anyway, this is not a Wire podcast. However, you should listen to that, except please be gentle with me because I didn't know. I was doing my best. Bless my little baby heart, my baby leftist heart. So this episode, we have not left, of course, Thriller Bark. I'm assuming Thriller Bark is going to be a thing now for a while. And I gotta tell you guys, frankly, I am 100% here for Thriller Bark being where we stay for the rest of the year. It is currently May 2nd. I would have no problem with that. Thriller Bark is just such a beautiful, weird little fucking treasure trove of horror tropes. And my only regret, and Florian mentioned this as well, is that I wish that we had hit this in September as we started to get into Halloween season. Then it would be chef's kiss perfect. But I have a feeling this is the kind of thing that I wouldn't mind going back and putting the arc on when I hit September anyway, just as a fun little background Halloween thing that's going on. I'm going to start things off from the beginning of episode 343, because it turns out that Moria is one of the great warlords of the sea. And Moria is the one who is stealing everybody's shadows, which it's still unclear exactly what it is he's getting out of this for me. I feel like that's being kept from us purposefully, but the fact that he steals their shadow, I wouldn't really have that much of an issue with, because who cares? It's the fact that they can't go out into the sun now. That really fucking sucks. You've turned them into vampires, except without any of the good parts of being a vampire. Doesn't seem like you get any super speed, immortality, none of that. You just get turned into an albino, in a sense, who is just immediately wrecked by the sun. And this dude, the only sight we get of him are his eyes in the dark. At one point, he's having a bad dream. And one of his little henchmen says something about aren't those great? Aren't those the best kind? Or something like that. And as somebody who suffers from extremely detailed nightmares, can I just say, fuck that. forever. Nightmares, I think, are one of the most unfair aspects of being a living, breathing human being. We can have all sorts of things go wrong with our body. We can have all sorts of things go wrong with our mind in waking hours. And as much as that sucks and is also unfair, the fact that you can't even get away from stuff when you sleep, that it will continue to fucking haunt you. And this goes for just generalized anxiety to trauma. I really think that sleep being fucked with is like the akin to like hitting below the belt. Sleep should be off limits. We should, as much as we suffer in our waking hours during the day as a race of people, I really think nature could have just given us a fucking pass on sleep. How hard would that have been? Like, come on. Just at the very least, if we're going to have to dream, make it so that nightmares aren't a thing. Make it so that the dreams are at least neutral, if not outwardly, overtly positive. So anyway, this, I'm getting ahead of myself. I said I was going to start at the beginning. I definitely didn't. But, okay, so Luffy is in the graveyard. And I love when he's talking to the zombies. And he's like, what are you guys all doing out here? You guys, I'm gonna have a hard time getting through this episode because so much of it cracks me up so bad. So he's asking what they do out here. Well, zombie stuff mostly. You know, getting buried, hanging out, rotting and stuff. Yeah, pretty much rotting and hanging out. Yeah, same here. And I love the fact that there are, as they each speak with the subtitles, there's a bracket to tell you which of the zombies is speaking. And they have their number and letter that they're like labeled with to really let us know which of them it is. That takes it over the top for me into truly hilarious. There was just something about the way this whole scene was set up. This show often delves into the ridiculous and they do a lot of humor, but this particular location feels like it is lending itself to a type of really overt humor that I'm not used to seeing from them. And I want it to stay. I want this to not be a phenomenon caused by the location. I want this to be a transition that One Piece makes to being straight up comedy a lot of the time. It doesn't have to be that way all the time. But, you know, there's a lot of comedy in the show so far that has been sort of like sensible chuckle. You know, just a very kind of low-key comedy or slapstick type stuff. But there is, between this and our introduction to Brook, this is really funny. I am absolutely 100% here for it. And when Luffy is like, you're not lying to me, are you? Let me ask you something. Did a man with a long nose, a woman with orange hair, and a reindeer that looks like a raccoon dog come through here? Oh, yeah. Right. We may have seen them, but we're not supposed to. Sorry, we can't say. We're all under specific orders not to share information about stuff like that with anyone. Sorry about that. And they begin chanting, we have our orders, orders. To which Luffy says, with a crack of his knuckles, so you're not going to tell me, huh? And then they immediately cave. Yeah, we saw him. Honestly, it's the kind of thing that I want. If they're calling these zombies pitiful and cowards, you know, I think Zoro says something and so does Frankie. I can't be mad at them. They're just peons. they shouldn't put themselves in harm's way just to save somebody else's secret. Do what you need to do to get by, zombie friends. It's tough out there, and, you know, do what you gotta do. And I love this. So Luffy says something about how they're his friends. You didn't do anything to them, did you? And of course, all of these guys at first start to say that they didn't do anything. And again, Luffy is like, I don't believe you. Well, this guy did something. And one of them says something about how he bit them. And then another guy chimes in with, well, we all bit them. And then they all get very agitated as they realize that, yes, Luffy did hear that. So Robin steps in as Zoro pulls his sword and Sanji comes forward and Frankie gets his fucking guns ready. And then we hear sounds of fighting as the camera pulls out a great distance, and all we get to see of it is a bunch of birds like taking flight because of the commotion. So that's all we get of that. I am kind of like, I kind of am glad that these zombies got knocked around for what they did to our friends. But again, I also feel like it's the equivalent of beating on a cashier for enforcing a policy for the store. The store isn't the one that's like offering its face to you. So you just take it out on whomever is directly in front of you, which doesn't address the problem and isn't really going to help things in the long run. And that poor cashier has now had a shit day. So I feel a little bit for these zombies because they're just sort of like the service workers of this island, it seems like. Well, ship, as you know, I was spoiled on, but that's what's revealed in the next episode is the way that this ship is set up. So then we go to Luffy and he's talking about the zombies being sort of pathetic and it was just so easy to beat on them that it almost wasn't any fun. And Zoro is saying that you can never tell when somebody that's going to be stronger is going to pop up. Which, for some reason, Sanji takes as him acting as if he's scared, which is, like, it's not even close to what he was saying. But, of course, this results in the two of them facing off and causing such a ruckus that another person catches up to them. And understandably, all of them think that this man is also a zombie, which, you know, he does have some of the stitching and whatnot on him that the others did, and it's forgivable. At one point, Luffy again calls him an old man with serious injuries, and they're like, what are you doing? That's another zombie. And the guy's like, no, your friend's right. And then they yell at him for not being a zombie and things just being confusing. So this guy is here to ask for their help. And it turns out his shadow was also stolen. And that there are a lot of other victims as well. And that they are looking to be rescued so that they can all enjoy the sun one last time at least before they die. And when they ask, who did this to you? Is he here somewhere on this island? This guy has a real nice dramatic moment before finally he says Moria. And Robin has a strong reaction. She clearly recognizes this name and explains to all of them that he is one of the 7 warlords. So I keep I keep forgetting just how much more of this Robin knows than any of them. And so, yeah, she's the one that, this is not the first time, of course, that she is recognizing names or faces that they aren't. But yeah, she says that, he has an even higher bounty than Luffy. So, yeah, when Luffy is like, "Are you sure?" Yes, Gecko Moria is a man of many mysteries. And Frankie is like, "Okay, the thing is, if this man is so, like, high profile and so powerful, why is he on Killer Bark? Like, this place is a dump. Why is he here?" And this dude isn't sure. He can't give them an answer on that. The overarching motivation by Moria is unknown. However, he does say something about how Moria is out to get you too since you were invited here, or something like that. And Zoro is like, "Invited? No, we weren't." And then he remembers that, like, sacrifice for the sea god thing that they came across, and realizes, like, oh, this was all a big lure, essentially. And yeah, this dude is like, "We're basically completely stuck here. Like, we can't go on the sea and try and escape the island because we're going to be exposed to the sun. How would we even manage to sail? Like, there's no way to do that. And once before I die, I want to walk under the sun, to feel its warmth on my skin." And he starts crying. And we get some real toxic masculinity stuff here, because he's crying for, in my opinion, a completely valid reason that I would also cry about. I would, just straight up. This is the thing for me that's always, like, the concept of becoming a vampire. All of the perks aside, the concept of having to stay out of the sun forever is a heavy price. I don't think I'd be able to do that. I love the concept, of course, of being immortal, having strength and speed. All of this stuff sounds great. But one, I love to eat actual food, and I think losing that would be quite a blow. And losing my ability to just, like, lounge in the sun or enjoy a sunny day, man, that's like a big part of the pleasure of life. I just don't see it. So I felt for this guy. Frankie's feeling for this guy as well. He starts, like, crying and saying how touching it is. He's been through so much. It's a really gut-wrenching story. And in the midst of the sobs, "You won't make me cry." But then Zoro calls him a crybaby, says he's too compassionate. And Sanji points and says, "Only ladies get to persuade people with their tears. Show a little backbone, will ya?" Look, Sanji, shut up. All right? I will be keeping an eye out for Sanji growing teary-eyed about something in the near future so that I can throw this in his face. Because frankly, Sanji, that's unreasonable. And if you were relegated to this sort of fate, I feel like you would be... I'm not going to say that you would be here crying, because you would obviously go and fight your own battle. But clearly this guy is capable of only so much. I am just unhappy with Sanji's reaction here. So, Luffy. Well, this does sound like the guy that we are after, so I am going to find him and kick his ass, and if that saves you, that's fine by me. Very much a helping you is the side effect of the plan I was already going to carry out. And all of these people on the outskirts of this clearing in the forest all start to chime in and say thank you as well, because they have been hiding and listening to the whole conversation, just like eavesdropping off screen. So when Sanji yells at them about that, one of them says, "Oh, we're sorry, freaky curly eyebrows guy." And I was kind of gratified that right after, in my opinion, being kind of a dickhead, Sanji got mocked. I was here for it. Just saying, I can be petty like that. I think it's fine. So this is when we go back to the Hogback's, what do you call it? Like secret lab. We had all of these guys getting approached in the hall while they're spying through the door. They're being approached from behind by this weird dude with the skeletonish face. I say ish because he seems like he's got skin, you know, he's not a complete skeleton. And he has sliced the door in half and like shoved them through it. And they all are sitting there just talking with one another about who that was and what his deal is without even noticing that they are now inside the laboratory and Hogback is like looming over them. And when he gets their attention, Usopp tries to reassure him that they didn't even see anything. You can let us go. It's no big deal. And of course, Usopp has to ruin it by being like, we didn't even see the zombie you were making. Usopp, why are you like this? So he goes on to say that, like, maybe you figured out one of my secrets, but the night hunt is going to begin in just a few minutes, so you're too late to change anything. And of course, our friends are like, well, what is the night hunt? And he's like, very dramatic with this, you guys. Woe unto those who travel at this hour. No intruder shall survive the night hunt. And he says this. We get into another like interstitial where, you know, it's a commercial break and whatnot. And we come back to him still fucking posturing. This dude is so much. He's not answering their question. For now, we're going to the Invisible Man, who I do kind of appreciate that eventually the crowd that like seemingly adores him begins just chanting pervert at him, which I don't know, I just sort of like appreciated that. But all of the zombies, the sort of like the visual joke about how our crew defeated all of the zombies is that when you go to the graveyard, they are now all face first in the dirt with their legs in the air, like little plastic dolls that have just been buried from the waist up, upside down. And this imagery, I don't know why, but it's one thing when our friends have just finished the fight and they're walking away and we see the zombies like this. But when we cut back to the Invisible Man and he is coming into the clearing and sees that they are still just chilling like this, that was really funny to me. And I expected him to be like a little bit more, I don't know if like disgusted is the right word, but you know what I mean? Just kind of like, oh, wow, this is so embarrassing. But instead, he's just like, well, you can't do the night hunt if you're still buried. Now, can you? And seems pretty calm about the whole thing, which leads me to believe that maybe he is used to these guys all collectively fucking up fairly often. And, so Invisible Man, his name is Absalom. I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember that. So forgive me, guys, if I have to ask you, you know, or get reminders. Invisible Man, I feel like, is pretty adequate to what we've got. But also, eventually, we do see him. It seems like he can control whether he's invisible. So I don't know if I'll feel like it makes sense to keep calling him that in the scenes where we can now see him. And he's trying to hype his guys up by being like, you zombies are, you know, impossible to defeat. You can't die. Every time you get knocked down, you get back up again. Ain't nothing going to keep you down. I'm so sorry, guys. I know that's, it's going to be in my head now. But he's trying to hype them up and they are really kind of not having it. Like, one of them just looks down and is like, yeah. And then they all go in this very morose sort of way. We know. Like, they really are not that hype about being zombies. And, I mean, I don't know that I would be either. I don't think, and I'm actually not sure about this, I'm going to assume if you're a zombie that you can't be out during daylight. And I'm saying this purely because of a general trope of this sort of zombie, like raising out of the grave, punching through the dirt of the graveyard. Obviously, we've got entire genres of shows and movies where zombies absolutely can travel in the light. But I will be interested to see if that's actually the case here. Like, will we have daylight scenes and see these zombies out in the light? It feels like Thriller Bark is in a sort of perpetual twilight and darkness. And I don't know, I'm just kind of keeping my eyes open for that. This is when they all begin to cheer him. They're calling him leader. And then eventually, like I said, transition to pervert, which is hilarious. He begins to grow visible, and he is so weird looking. He's got like the nose of a lion's muzzle. I'm not sure if it's a lion, but it's like a large cat. And otherwise seems to look pretty much like a dude, like a regular dude. And then we get this really surprising sequence. You know, I had thought in the last section that we had kind of seen all the major players that we were going to be dealing with. But we get this bit where a bunch of ghosts all over the island, they're saying, huddle, 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 huddle. They are flying towards this one open window. And there is an odd creature standing in the window, waving them in. I think it says his name is Kumasi. He looks like a patched teddy bear, like patched many, many times. Bandages. He has sort of mask over his mouth, like what a surgeon would wear, except he's doing it in the real boomer wearing a mask during COVID, where it's not covering his nose, it's only covering his mouth. It's a weird thing. And he is ushering them into the window, and all of the ghosts travel forward into a woman. And she is sitting there as if when she doesn't have these ghosts like occupying her, she doesn't have any strength. There's a sort of sense that she is made up of them somehow. I don't really know how that would work. But this little stuffed bear is her servant. And he hands her this little, like, I guess, cane. And she hands up, her name is Perona. I'm not positive I'm saying that right. But she keeps, like, getting on his case about how ugly he is and that she doesn't want him to talk to her. And says something like, either be cute or shut up is the way it goes in the dub. Which, honestly, a part of me kind of got that because I really enjoy beauty as well. But she has got the e-girl hair, you know, the giant curling pigtails coming off each side of her head. And I think they're sort of a pink color and a very gothic Lolita sort of look happening. It's a pretty fun outfit, to be honest. Like, if I were going to cosplay a character, I would probably do her because it's just a fun look, and it would be pretty easy to put together, I think, because so many really generic cosplay items could lend themselves to this. But anyway, so this is when we jump to Master Moria. And these guys come up. One of them uses, it's a trio of little guys. And they reminded me a great deal of the small, like, trick-or-treaters that are the kind of servants, I guess, for lack of a better word, of the Oogie Boogie in Nightmare Before Christmas, which I only just saw for the first time like a couple of years ago. But that was really the energy here. And they use a bow and arrow to pop this guy's bubble that he's like, this is one of those really weird, to me, visual cues. But, you know, you guys have explained to me that in anime, a sort of bubble that's protruding and expanding and then shrinking is a sign that somebody is asleep, as well as, I think in Full Metal Alchemist, there was a girl who was asleep in a library and there's just like a weird little sort of ghost figure dancing above her head, like as if it's coming out of her mouth. And I was like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? And everybody was like, oh, that just means she's sleeping. And, you know, I think of that as being really weird. But then I think of how our visual cue, like in American cartoons and stuff, is Z's coming out of your mouth. And that's also really strange. You know, zzz, like, I guess, why is that better? It's not really. Gus says it's a parasol. Oh, okay. So the Gothic Lolita thing, we're really going for it. Seraphim says, so Kuma is Japanese for bear, so the ginger stuffed teddy bear looking thing is pretty much named Barry. I like it. I want to call him that from now on. And yeah, Perona tends to be a really popular cosplay. Yeah, this feels like a really easy one, you know? And it's cute, and it's like, even if people don't necessarily know who you are, they're just going to be like, oh, you look nice. Versus some of the other cosplays that I feel like if people don't know who you are, they will just sort of look at each other and be like, what the fuck is up with that outfit? Like, I just don't see being able to go out into the wider world in some of the costumes in this show. I feel like, I don't know. So anyway, they're all yelling at Master Moria to wake up. And this is when we see, like, he has this big belly in what looks to be sort of plaid or argyle pants, but we don't see his face. It's just his eyes opening, which are glowing in a sort of purple haze of smoke that like hangs out around them. And these guys are all reporting to him about the Straw Hat Pirates and how they have been brought to the island for his benefit. And they're asking if he's pleased because these are the same pirates that brought down in his lobby. So what's making me sort of like interested here is the suggestion that the more powerful they are, the better, the more happy Moria is going to be. As if he like somehow either is looking for a worthy opponent or can absorb the power of people whose shadows he takes. So he's glad to be getting a whole assortment of people who have done something like really impressive because that means that he will grow more powerful. I don't know what that could mean. But so this is the part where they're looking up and they're like, what is that? Frankie realizes that the banner they're seeing hanging is a sail. And this is when we get the official reveal about how Thriller Bark is the largest pirate ship there is. It's not an actual island. It is a pirate ship with this huge, like, first of all, it has actual land around it. It has the big ass building in the middle, which just looks like a Capitol building from a major city. And then chained around it is the huge, weird wall with the mouth-like gate. And that is apparently a permanent fixture around it. Pretty wild. So yeah, everybody is standing there discussing this, and Frankie explains, oh, I get it. Bark. A bark is a type of sailing ship with 3 or more masts. And I was like, you know what, Frankie, appreciate you explaining that, because I'm pretty sure that, like, when I've seen bark for a boat, it's been spelled Barque. So it did not occur to me that maybe spelling has changed over time, or that what I was reading was maybe the spelling from like another country, or I don't know. But I just appreciated that like explanation there. And yeah, this place is the home of Gecko Moria. And the camera, as he says this, jumps to the inside of Gecko's house and all of these different clocks that are in there. A lot of significance for timekeeping, apparently. So we go back to Invisible Man, and he is saying, like, we're going to take down the straw hats, show them no mercy. Together we will crush them. Now go make me proud. And I was like, man, they just faced them. And I don't know if you noticed, but when you got here, they were all upside down in the dirt. I don't know why you think that, like, now it's going to be a different result, but I can basically guarantee it will be the same result. So I wouldn't get my hopes up too much if I were you. I'm just saying. So then we get a sort of montage of different areas of the island. I don't really get what the meaning of that was supposed to be. I kept like waiting for some significance for that. I don't know. But we go then to Perona. She has, finally we see her in full color. She has these boots. She's got black and white striped stockings. This like little frilly skirt with like a sort of cowgirl-esque look to it, and a big heart buckle on the front. And then a capelet that's pink with what I think is supposed to be maybe a lacy frill to it, but really kind of looks like shearling wool that ties at her throat with like a big pink ribbon over a kind of ordinary looking, in a lot of ways, long sleeve white tee that has a heart, like a couple of heart shaped symbols on it. And then her hair and big round black eyes that are like very not human looking. They echo the eyes of the ghosts in many ways. And she has, to top it all off, you know, her pigtails have each got a little bow and then a crown, a giant. I'm not talking, like, if I were listening to this and I heard somebody say, and she's wearing a crown, what I would imagine would be a kind of like delicate, jeweled metal sort of tiara type thing. Allow me to really describe this crown. It is much more like when you see a crown on, I don't know, something official like a stamp where it's got like the velvet kind of cap inside, and then the metal curves up and around into the center where like a cross comes up off the top of the crown. The really traditional, like, Her Majesty the Queen wore this for her coronation kind of crown. And I mean, I'm talking with the cross and everything. It's really quite a look. So then we go to Moria, and he is talking about the dark realm full of ghosts and ghouls. This place we call Thriller Bark. They are going to see nothing short of the nightmare to end all nightmares. And he's saying all of this, and apparently like all of his henchmen can hear, or at least they all have the understanding of what's about to happen at the same time. But then we cut to the rest of the Straw Hats coming to the mansion. And it's kind of funny because like all of this drama is happening, but they apparently don't see any of it and they have no inkling whatsoever. So there's like a sort of undercut of the drama here for a second to me. But what we get at the start of the next episode, I'm trying to jump ahead to find the right spot here. Okay, here it is. Feast of the Zombie Song. We have all of these guys, and these zombies are walking around, and I kept being like, that just looks like a disco ball. It just looks like a disco ball. What is this? There's no light that's coming off it, though. So I just kept being like, I mean, that's what it looks like. I guess it could be anything. Who knows? But that's what it looks like. Spoilers, it is, but we don't have that yet. First, we go to Hogback's little chamber. I keep wanting to say torture chamber. It's his lab, but come on, it's a torture chamber also. And Nami is sort of getting like confrontational with him and being like, we have seen what you're doing, and all of these other zombies are also down to you. And he's like, well, where's your proof? And then she points out, Victoria Sindri, you died 10 years ago. And it's interesting because the doctor seems genuinely put off that they know this, which I was sort of expecting him to be like, well, yeah. And look, she's still alive. I think that's pretty cool, right? But he seems at first just frustrated at the fact that they have got this information at all. He gives the command for them to all be thrown into the world of darkness, never to return. And when he says that, Sindri gestures and suddenly has like a whole stack of plates in her hand, which I was expecting somebody to say something like, really, more plates? But no, they don't really address it. And I thought that was kind of odd. So let's see, here it is. Here comes Ryuma. That's the name of the other sort of, I think Chopper calls him like a mummy. And he comes in with his little hair and his in this tiny, hilarious kind of, he's got that sort of ponytail that I really can't stand because I have nothing against men wearing ponytails as a general rule. I'm actually kind of a big fan of long hair on men, depending on, a lot of factors. But one thing I cannot take seriously is the ponytail in one spot where the rest of the hair is the same length as like an ordinary men's haircut. And I know that this is, sometimes a historical style, a cultural style. I just think it's a bad look. I never like it. It's one step away from like a rat tail, which I will never get over that they decided to style Anakin Skywalker in the prequels with a rat tail, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, this dude says the same thing to Nami about how I only have eyes for ladies like you. You're beautiful. And then again, would you show me your panties? Oh boy. Now, at the very least, it turns out that there is some significance to the fact that he has said the exact same thing to her that Brooke said. And she sort of stops and is like, wait a second. I know that line. What is this? And I don't know, because, all she's thinking is that can't just be a coincidence. But I'm like, are they related to each other? Or is this guy like part of the same soul? This dude is saying he is one of my zombie generals. And he's something quite special. They call his sort a samurai, and this one supposedly slayed a flying dragon, according to the legend. And I don't know, like, I just can't imagine why he says the exact same thing. Is there one personality that's like controlling all of the zombies? Because they do seem to have distinct personalities, like when Luffy is talking to them in the graveyard and whatnot. And I'm not sure, like, Brook doesn't count as a zombie. He was brought back to life by a devil fruit. So he isn't falling under the same category. Has this guy, the way that Hogback is talking about him, he seems to be taking credit for this dude being alive. So I think that said though, he doesn't have the numbers tattooed on him, I don't think. So maybe he's taking credit when really it's not. He's kind of, overstating things a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what to think. And he comes at them and he's really, really fast. He has his blade out and all three of our friends are sort of standing there like, what happened? I thought that he was going to come after us and nothing even, I don't understand. And they start to walk away. They're like, I guess it was nothing. We're good. And they try to leave the room. And then all of a sudden, they go flying. And you see all of this like blood coming out of their mouths and whatnot. And what it's supposed to be is that basically he is so fast that he hit them and it took them like a full 20 seconds to register the fact that they were hit, which I kind of enjoyed. It is like a bit of a goofy move, but I don't know. I thought it worked. I was fine with it. So we then have all of the rest of the Straw Hats coming into the big main room where the start of the fight went down with all of the guys in the portraits. And we've got the pig who is sort of speaking for the room initially before everybody is like, let's get 'em, boys. And it's another fun juxtaposition similar to the zombies in the graveyard, where everybody comes out of the portraits and the huge bearskin rug rises off the floor and they're all threatening them, hanging out around them, and, just really putting on a show, expecting our friends to panic the way the rest of our friends did. But instead, they all just stare and are like, oh, that's what's going on. All right, well, let's deal with this. And we go to each and every one of them individually putting down their own monster in different ways. We've got a pretty fun moment where Robin is talking to the woman who's in the portrait and it's just like, you're really way too pretty to be acting like this. And the lady's like, oh, you really think so? And she twists her with her, fleur powers. Frankie literally banging two heads together. Zoro says something about two sword style Nigiri, and one of them is like, what is that, sushi? And when he strikes them, I should stick to ramen. Oh my god, that is such a bad joke. Good god. And then the bear skin rug is like chasing Luffy, who is just giggling and having the time of his life. At one point he like slams a paw down and Luffy just somersaults out of the way, then jumps over his head and runs in the other direction, and is just low-key wasting this bear's time, having a really good time playing tag, essentially. And eventually Luffy is like, all right, well, now it's time. I was going to ask you to join my crew, but you tried to smash me, so we're going to go with Gum Gum Bazooka. And I love when he goes down, the pig on the wall says, no, not bear rug, which I like to think is not only because the bear rug is obviously huge, very intimidating, would be difficult to beat, and probably we all think that's our, last resort that's definitely going to succeed where everyone else failed. But I like to also think him, the pig, and the bear are the only two non-human type creatures in this whole room. Everybody else is basically a person, a portrait of a human. And I'd like to think that there's some sort of like weird camaraderie and kinship with them because of that, even though that's a completely invented scenario in my head. But I don't know. I just kind of, why not? They gotta stick together somehow. So this is when there's this fucking pair of like little squirrels, y'all. They have, I think they're chipmunks. I'm saying squirrels. They have squirrel-like tails, so probably they're based on like a version of the animal that I'm not familiar with. They have squirrel-like tails, but chipmunk-like coloring. And they are standing over Nami, Usopp, and Chopper, who have been stuffed into a very, very large coffin. And these two little guys are clearly also both zombies. They are low-key adorable. And they fasten the lid on, and Dr. Hogback is like, all right, now take the intruders away. Do not know exactly where they're going to end up. Then we go to the procession of zombies, and we are really getting here now, kids. So all of our friends are hanging out, figuring out what they're going to do next. And they notice Sanji is missing. Where is our cook? And I love it because a second ago, the pig on the wall was acting real intimidated. Like, definitely wasn't expecting these guys to win. And they won so handily. And, it's really seeming like the Straw Hats hold all the power. But as soon as they ask where Sanji is, everybody in the room starts snickering at the Straw Hats. At one point, one of the guys from one of the portraits is like, guys, stop laughing. They can hear you, which made it all the funnier. And then everybody has different reactions. I love Zoro closes his eyes and just says, goodbye, Sanji. Rest in peace. He's just like, well, what can you do? But what Luffy says is, it's Sanji. I'm not worried about it. I'm sure he's going to be fine. And the pig on the wall starts to get a little bit of his confidence back. And he's talking about how they think they really did something here, but they hardly put a dent in their numbers. And on the other hand, you just lost one of your key fighters. I wonder who's next. And when he says this, Robin interrupts and is like, well, regardless, we should really keep our eyes open. And he tries to interrupt again and be like, admit it, you're scared. You don't stand a chance. And she just talks over him and says, I suppose that we could threaten him. But even if we did, and as she says this, like in the background, the pig is like, he was intending to get to monologue and she's not letting him monologue. And I'm always a fan of that trope, So Zoro is like, all right, well, we'll just drag him with us and use him as a guide. And again, with the guys on the ground laughing, yeah, guide them. And the pig says, hey, now, come on. No, go ahead. If you want to die so badly, challenge our master. It's your funeral. And one of the dudes is like, he's so scary, I can't even speak his name. Let me try. Gekko Nope, just as I thought, it's too scary. And then, you know what it is. You know what it is, guys. It's time for our zombie song. This is really something. We've got lights. We've got that fucking disco ball is doing exactly the thing. I want this song to be better than it is, but we have never, as far as I recall, had like a musical number in this show. I may be wrong about that, but I don't remember it. So it was hard for me to like hold that against it because it was so unexpected and fun. And it's just everyone, it's zombie night, round and round until you die. And they're doing a motion that's very similar to the like Thriller dance motion, which I have to assume is a very purposeful homage. And they do that one zombie night, round and round until you die. They sing that like probably 10 times in a row. And eventually we get to a new verse, or I don't know if you would even call them that because they're so short. I'm watching it, you guys. I forgot about the whoop whoops that are intermittent with it. It looks like in the sub, they just say that. In the dub, I could swear that there was like another verse of a different set of lines, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, so we cut from them dancing and really like having such a good time. The zombies have they've been dealt a bad hand. And I kind of enjoy the fact that they get to have a little bit of fun here and there, you know? So we cut then to Absalom going into the crypt, I guess, underneath the building. And he's yelling at all of these different coffins that look very much the same as the ones that Nami and Usopp and Chopper were put into. He yells, "The intruders have all wandered into our territory. They're our prey now. Let your hunger run wild. This will be a feast of terror. Now awaken, zombie generals." And we see people coming up out of the ground. We see people opening their coffins. We see the dudes who are standing on the sides in, what do you call it? In like suits of armor, lift their weapons off of the like platforms that they're standing on. We've even got a dude at one point that I'm assuming he was like assembled this way, but he's got 4 arms and it looks like he's got guns. There's a guy with swords still stuck in his abdomen and holes where other swords I assume used to be. There's a man that's giving Juggernaut very, very much. And Absalom is still talking about how the Straw Hats are going to fall quickly. They're arrogant. They really think they can beat us, but they aren't going to do it. And we see a very quickly cut together shot of the little like chipmunk guys carrying the coffin. And then we see the coffin, I am assuming it's the same coffin, like wrapped in what looks like cobwebs or something, hanging off of a chain, like dangling over the ground, over the water, I believe. And I don't really, I'm assuming the cut is so strange. Like ordinarily I'd be like, clearly what this is supposed to be telling us is that it's the same coffin, that they just put them on there. But it's done so quickly and so abruptly that part of me is doubting whether it is the same coffin. I don't know if it's maybe the like a decoy coffin. But anyway, we then go to Absalom and he is standing in the midst of his zombie generals and is like basically sicking them on our friends. And then to be continued. And that is the end of the episode. So I'm pretty stoked. I think the next one I'm covering 3 episodes. So I'm going to assume there's either a lot of like filler stuff or a lot of action that I can't necessarily like go blow by blow on. But I am really looking forward to getting to see this weird fight with these zombie generals because they look cool as hell. I'm very excited about them. And Seraphim says, So Ryuma and the story of him killing a dragon is a reference to an earlier manga Oda did called Wanted. I'm assuming that's not the Wanted that turned into that movie with Angelina Jolie, right? And then you just know that if he thought his editors would let him get away with it, those zombies would be outright doing the Thriller dance. I am surprised he didn't try and push that even more. But I do really enjoy the fact that there is an actual dance of zombies, because I know what you're referencing with Thriller Bark, of course. I never thought we would see a dance. And that was just a treat. It was delightful. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Appreciate you so much. Until next time. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.